Every day, thousands of people lose everything chasing fast money, but no one tells you how it really happens. Boiler Room. Personal Diary. Entry 1. The first step. I still remember the first time I stepped into that room. The sound hit me first. The relentless click, click, click of phones. The hum of voices pitching dreams to strangers. The kind of energy that makes your pulse race without you even knowing why. It smelled like coffee, adrenaline, and something else. Money. I wasn't supposed to be here. 2 months ago, I was running an illegal casino out of my apartment, trying to prove to my father, a man who wore his moral compass like armor, that I could make something of myself. Instead, I just kept digging my own hole. Then Greg showed up, an old acquaintance with a grin too wide to trust, and a promise too big to ignore. "Bro, forget the cards," he said. "Come work with me. You'll be making more in a week than you do in a month. Real money. Fast money." The thing is, I believed him. Or maybe I just wanted to believe him. That's how I ended up walking into J.T. Marlin, the so-called Boiler Room, a place where ambition was currency and greed was the air we breathed. Everyone here looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. Sharp suits, perfect hair, eyes burning with hunger. The senior brokers shouted orders like generals in a war room, and the rookies, well, the rookies, like me, were just trying to survive. Ben Affleck, well, his character, but you'd never forget the guy, stood at the front like a preacher at his pulpit. "You want to be rich?" he barked. "You want to drive a Ferrari? Live in a mansion? Then follow the script and close every damn deal." The room erupted. I felt my chest tighten, half from excitement, half from the creeping sense that I'd just stepped onto a ride I couldn't get off. I told myself I was here for the money, that I could keep my head down, make my cash, and walk away clean. But deep down, I already knew there was no such thing as clean in a place like this. Entry 2. The knock. I didn't expect my life to change that Wednesday. I was just getting ready for another slow day at my little home poker setup when I heard a knock. Not the friendly kind. Sharp, rhythmic. The kind that makes you stand still for a second before opening the door. There they were, 2 guys in suits. Clean, sharp, the type you'd see in a GQ magazine. But their eyes had that glint of someone who knows they're about to sell you a dream, and they're already enjoying the thought of you biting. They didn't waste time. "We've got an opportunity," one of them said, "and you're exactly the kind of guy who can handle it." Opportunity. That word can be poison or medicine, depending on who's holding the bottle. I didn't know which it was yet, but the way they painted it, fast money, high stakes, adrenaline every single day. It was like they were speaking directly to that restless part of me that hated ordinary life. I didn't ask too many questions. Maybe I should have. Entry 3, the first floor. The office didn't look like much from the outside, just another anonymous building in the suburbs. But when I stepped inside, it was like walking into another universe. Phones were ringing non-stop. Young guys in their 20s and 30s in crisp shirts and loosened ties were pacing the floor, shouting into headsets, waving their hands like orchestra conductors commanding a symphony of greed. The air smelled like coffee, cologne, and ambition. I was handed a headset before I even knew where the bathroom was. They gave me a script, told me to stick to it, told me it was all about the numbers. "You don't sell stocks," my trainer whispered. "You sell dreams." That's when I realized this wasn't a job. This was a game, and I had just been dealt my first hand. Entry 4. The Hook. It only took 1 week for me to get hooked. The rush of closing a deal, it's a high you can't buy on the street. The first time I convinced a stranger to wire over $50,000, my hands were shaking. Not from guilt, but from the sheer thrill of it. We weren't selling real value. Hell, half of what we pitched didn't even exist. But in that office, reality didn't matter. Numbers on paper, voices over the phone, that's all the world was made of. At night, I'd lie in bed and replay the day in my head. Not the faces of the people I'd just drained, but the sound of their voices when they said, yes. That single word was worth more than sleep. Entry 5. The Growing Doubt. I can't sleep. It's not the caffeine. It's not the noise outside. It's the phone calls, the voices on the other end. When I first started, the script felt like a safety net. Stick to the script and you'll never get burned, they said. But lately, I've been going off script, pushing harder, closing bigger deals. I've been good at it, too good. But yesterday, I called a man in Kansas. He told me his wife was sick. I still pitched him, still closed him. He wired $50,000 before we hung up. That night, I stared at my reflection and asked myself, what did you just do? Entry 6. The War Room. They brought in the new guys today. Fresh faces, hungry eyes. I saw myself in them. Ben, our so-called mentor, walked in like a god, tossing us praise like scraps to dogs. The room lit up. The energy was electric. But under the hum of ringing phones, I swear I heard something else. The sound of lives unraveling on the other end. Entry 7. The Bonus and the Burden. Marty called me into his office. He handed me a bonus check so big it felt illegal just touching it. His words were like honey. You're killing it, kid. Keep doing what you're doing. But the moment I left his office, I couldn't shake the image of the Kansas man's voice, the hesitation before he said yes, the quiet defeat. I think I've crossed a line I can't uncross. Entry 8. The Breaking Point. I used to think this was a game I could control. Fast money, big deals, the thrill of the chase. I told myself it was just business, nothing personal. But the truth, it's personal. Last week, I called a man in Kansas, said he was a school teacher saving up for his daughter's college. I sold him on a stock that was supposed to be the next big thing. He wired me $50,000. The next day, the stock tanked. I called to reassure him, but all I heard was silence. Then a crack in his voice when he said, I don't know how to tell my wife. That moment hit me like a punch to the gut. I stood in the middle of the trading floor, surrounded by shouting brokers, phones ringing off the hook, and felt like I was drowning. Then there was Marty. He called me into his office, handed me a bonus check that looked like a fortune, and said, You're one of the best we've got. Keep it up. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that the money justified everything. But I couldn't stop seeing that man from Kansas. I'm caught in a trap I helped build. A machine that preys on hope and sells lies dressed as dreams. The FBI showed up last night, not at my door, yet. But the message was clear. I'm at a crossroads. Keep running this con and risk losing everything, or find a way out before it's too late. Some nights I still crave the rush, but now that craving tastes bitter. Because I know this isn't just about money anymore. It's about who I've become. Entry 9. The Choice. The weight was unbearable. Every dollar I earned felt heavier, like it was made of lead. I couldn't look myself in the mirror without seeing the lies reflected back. I sat alone in my apartment, the city lights flickering like distant stars, and made the hardest decision of my life. I was going to turn them in, the people I called friends, the mentors who taught me to silence my conscience. They would call me a traitor. I'd lose the money, the status, the life I'd built from nothing. But I couldn't keep living a lie. I reached out to the FBI, gave them everything, names, recordings, dates, the nights that turned into mornings as I fought to undo the damage I'd helped create. It wasn't easy. They came after me too. Threats, silence from old allies, the cold shoulder from people who once smiled at me. But then, freedom. Not the freedom of luxury or wealth, but the freedom of truth. Of waking up without the gnawing guilt. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll ever be the same. But I do know this. Money isn't worth losing yourself over. If you're listening, if you're chasing the dream, don't forget who you are beneath the suits and the scripts. Because in the end, that's all that really matters. Subscribe.
It's human nature to want things fast. Fast cars, fast food, fast money. But what's the real cost of fast money?